This video is the first in a series that I'm going to title How to Learn. Learning is something that's always interested me. I've been accused of being a jack of all trades many times in my life. And I think because of my lifetime of learning, I have a unique take on the subject, and I'd like to share a little bit of my perspective in this series. Generally, when we think of learning, we think of it in terms of how to learn something. So, how to learn tennis, for example. And so, if you think of how to learn tennis, well, you've got a list of skills that you need to learn. And once you knock out those skills, all of a sudden you know how to do tennis, which is absolutely true. So you work on your backhand, you work on your serve, you learn the rules of tennis, and all of a sudden you know tennis. But I think there's something more to learning that can make the process of learning more efficient and more interesting. And that is learning how to be a learner. The reason why I think that's valuable is cultivating a mindset of being a learner all of a sudden makes the actual process of learning compelling and interesting to you. And I think that weeds out a lot of the inefficiency and tension that can kind of be a part of the learning process. How many times have you tried to learn something, say programming, but maybe the actual act of like reading the book and studying feels like drudgery, and you find yourself saying a lot like, okay, I gotta really buckle down. Like I need to discipline myself so that I can learn this thing and achieve this goal that I want to have. That's a pretty common feeling to have. I think that learning to be a learner and cultivating a mindset of loving learning in general can help with those kinds of inefficiencies and make it easier for you to achieve the goals that you have and to learn the stuff that you want to learn. So with that being the case, this series of videos is generally going to focus on those qualities, those cultivations of mindset that you can have that will make learning efficient and intuitive and natural. So this first video is going to be on the subject, everything is interesting. And I'm going to put a little subtitle underneath that too. Everything is interesting, but maybe I just haven't experienced it yet. We tend to think of things as either innately boring or interesting. But I think the reality behind it is that I'm either bored with something or I'm interested in something. Imagine that your neighbor is obsessed with gardening. So you see them outside pulling weeds all the time. And you think, oh, that's so boring. I would hate to be outside weeding all the time. I would rather gag myself with a spoon. Or here's another example. Say one of your friends is an Enneagram 9. They're like super duper nurturing, caring people, and they've got kids. So say they love being a mother. Like their entire identity is wrapped up in momming. All they want to do is be a mom. They just like being a mom. And maybe for you, say you're different than them, and the thought of your entire life being carting kids around to sports activities and never having free time, that sounds like your own personal hell. In those examples, those activities maybe seem boring, but they obviously aren't to those people. So there's something going on there, you see? Like, I think of gardening as boring. I think of being a full-time mom as boring, but they're not boring to other people. So what I think that reveals is that those things aren't boring or interesting. I'm bored of them, or I am interested in them. And so if I could see that activity for what it is, then maybe I would get a taste for why other people are obsessed with it. maybe that doesn't mean that the rest of my life is now going to be gardening, if that's, not my thing, but I'll be able to get a taste for it. There's this Zen saying that goes, to the prosaic, everything is prosaic. And I think what that is getting at is, if the world seems dry and like there's not much to it, it's not interesting, maybe it's not the world's fault. Maybe maybe I have a lack of an awareness of the inherent interestingness in other stuff. And if I were to cultivate myself and try to get a taste for something that is interesting in the world, then maybe the world itself would change and suddenly become more interesting. And I believe that's absolutely true. I think you could take any hobby out there, say making tea, and I think that every single hobby actually has like infinite layers of interest to it. It's like a rabbit hole that you could just go down forever and ever. You could develop mastery in that skill, and it would continually bring forth new layers of quality, like an onion or something. This perspective, everything is interesting. You may not believe it right now, but I think that if you try this perspective on, it can be truly transformational. It's certainly something that's changed my life. It's made me more open-minded to other activities, more open-minded to other people, and it's really changed my life. I think that this perspective changes your worldview. All of a sudden, the world becomes like pregnant with mystery and interest, and it's like there's more to everything. Maybe you don't see it, but I think with this mindset, there's this sense of like, man, there's something that I don't see underneath this, and it gives a sense of like fantasy and wonder to the world, something like that. So, anyways, to tie this back into learning, everything is interesting. The reason why I believe that's so powerful is because that cultivates a general curiosity of the world and an interest in the act of learning itself, because as you're learning, you're expanding your scope of understanding about the world. It's an approach to learning that becomes intuitive and natural, and I think it does a big part in melting away the sense of like discipline and drudgery that sometimes we feel when we're simply focused on the goal. As you cultivate this love of learning itself, this sense of curiosity, all of a sudden you don't need as much discipline or duty or beating yourself up over all the stuff you're not doing. The love and the desire is something that grows naturally. So that's it. Thank you for watching this video, and hope you have a great day.